Catflap Chats, episode 54. Delighted to have Mr. Ollie Phillips with us today. So, where do we start with this? 4 times Guinness World Record holder, former England Sevens captain, player of the year, played in France, England, director now at PwC. Got your own, is it Optimist performance?
I do, mate. Yeah.
Yeah,
Little
got that.
behavioural change business. Yeah.
Mentor, public speaker, after dinner speaker. Cambridge, played for Cambridge as well. Am I right?
Mate. Cambridge Uni. Yeah. Down
Yeah.
there. Keep it light blue all the way through.
I've probably missed a couple of things. How are you, mate? I'd obviously just spoke off pod, but what's going on in your world?
Mate, the most important one as well. Head coach for the Wales women at Sevens, mate. I mean, obviously,
So,
you're
I was going to ask you on that.
I can't believe you're on that. I'm turncoat. I've left England RFU, gone over to WRU. Sacrilegious.
So I was going to ask you about that. So I'm English, right? I was born in Plymouth, moved up to Cardiff. Obviously, I knew you joined the WRU. I saw all that, and then I've seen nothing, obviously, with COVID and everything that was going on. I didn't know if the gig was still live or I didn't know what was going on with it. So I didn't want to put it in there just in case, and then hopefully or naturally it was going to come out at some point.
Just wanted to get the dirt, the inside scoop. He's like, come on, Mikey, just dig in, wasn't he?
What's going on then?
Well, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to realise that sport and events and whatever are struggling all over the place because of COVID, and WRU no exception to that. I loved it. I've loved my whole experience with them, coaching the girls, just being involved. It's been an absolutely amazing experience, and if I'm honest, 20 times better than I thought it was going to be. For financial reasons, and I understand why they were sort of like, look, we've got to put this on hold. We just can't be. There just is no program, if that makes sense. There's nowhere for them to play. There's nothing for them to do. So I guess in terms of like physically contracting, it's kind of on pause. But in terms of like my actual application interest, I'm still involved, if that makes sense. So I speak to the girls all the time. Help them review some of their performances after their Premiership games each weekend. With the hope, I still speak to Charlotte Wathen and everyone at the WRU with the hope that once it all comes back online, then I'll be going back in. They've just appointed Warren Abrahams as the sort of head coach for the 15s. He's a top bloke, brilliant coach. It'd be absolutely amazing, honestly. He'd be a brilliant addition for them. And Rachel Taylor as well, who's there sort of as like I think skills coach now. She's an awesome coach. Like just finding her feet as a coach. So,
is she a former player?
Yeah, former player.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So, so there's a chance that I might be getting involved in that side of it as well, with the World Cup coming up. Maybe get involved in some sort of like attack coach or defense coach role. But for the time being, it's fluid. If that makes sense. Like what's the official party line is. There probably is no program. Is probably official party line where it is at the moment. But I still got a brilliant relationship with all of them, and I'm still coaching, and I loved it there. And so it's not online right now, but the moment it does, you'll be getting a call kind of thing. That's sort of probably where it stands at the moment.
Class. Obviously, high performance is something that you've done both through your career on the field, but also off the field. Is coaching something that sports coaching now? Is that something that you thought you were going to get into or wanted to get into, or was it just the opportunity was too good to turn down?
No, I didn't think I'd get into it or was even interested in it, to be honest. I was on my honeymoon at the time when Ryan Jones gave me a buzz. He just said, look, we really want to focus on the sevens as a development pathway, as a growth area for the women's game. Would you come in? And I've known him for a long time. Would you come in and get involved in the program? And I was like, if I'm truth be told, I was really interested in like the strategic side of it, like how do we build out women's rugby in Wales, less on the how do I coach day to day, because I hadn't done that for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And then when I got into it, I just loved it. I loved the whole coaching experience, the people development, working with all these awesome, inspirational like women that just wanted to go out and better themselves, man. I loved it. So bizarrely, I enjoyed the strategy and the politics less than I thought I would, and enjoyed the coaching and the development of all the girls 50 times more. Like that was wicked. So it's definitely something I want to do more of, and I'm trying to line up at the moment. But for COVID,
of course.
Right now they're just trying to figure out how the hell they get sort of programs back up on their feet.
Yeah, it's tough at the moment. Hopefully, we'll start to be allowed to have fans back, and God knows what else is going on.
Yeah,
I think,
exactly. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
yeah, just put a bit of finger in the air and hope for the best. I think at the moment.
Yeah, but so we've been on that front. So on the other hat that I've got, which is obviously I'm a director at PwC, we actually were involved with Premiership Rugby and helping them return to play. Do the
Yeah,
whole sort of return to play for rugby. So that was awesome being involved in that and leading sort of part of that team that was looking at, okay, how do we actually deliver a safe environment for rugby players? And we did explore fans, but rugby players first and foremost,
yeah,
to stage up the professional game. So that was cool, like being involved in a sport that I know and I love, just getting it back onto its feet. Even stage one, if you like, but that was wicked.
yeah. Is it so normally like whenever you see things like look, I'm on the outside. I've got no knowledge of the intricacies of what it takes to do something like that. But whenever you see, I don't know, like review panels and boards, and very rarely there's someone who is fresh from playing with a keen interest who's actually right in the middle of it. And you look at, I don't know, when players get bans, for example, they go and meet some lawyers and they get given their sentence, whatever it might be, headbutt or whatever. Well, there's never, or rarely, from what you hear, there's rarely a player on that who is actually either just finished or even still playing. And was it fresh then for them to have someone who knew rugby inside out at a professional level from the playing side rather than the administration side?
Um, you probably have to ask them that, but I enjoyed it from my own perspective. Of obviously, I could bring a playing perspective to the party. Like,
Yeah,
this will work, this won't work. This is what the players will be good at. This is what they won't be good at. I was probably more green, if that makes sense, in terms of like risk, compliance,
yeah,
procedure, all that sort of stuff. So that's where some of the PwC team came into their own around, okay, well, this is actually how you deliver it and what that means as a system and a process. But I mean, I think it's always that blend, isn't it? Right? You can't have someone that's just all about the game because they don't necessarily understand the whatever you want to call it, the risk landscape,
yeah.
and then you can't have someone that's just totally risk averse because then nothing ever happened.
Yeah, of course, so much red tape around at the moment as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
What do you do there day to day at the moment? So most people will know you from your sevens exploits and then stints with Newcastle, Stade. You
Yeah.
had a few games for Gloucester.
I did, mate. Yeah, signed for Gloucester and then got bloody injured. Like literally
Yeah,
within 4 weeks of being there. So I didn't have many games in the end, which is gutted because I love that club. I love that area. Such a cool
yeah,
place.
it
But
is
yeah.
cool down there. What are you doing day to day there? How do you split your time? Because like we said, PwC and a director there, that's no mean feat. Dipping in and out of the WRU when you're allowed to, obviously with
Yeah.
the current climate, and then your own stuff that you're doing on the side as well. Kind of what is your
Yeah.
kind of schedule like?
So day to day, PwC, that's my gig. Like, I'm a
Yeah,
director there. I lead everything that we do with government and a department in government in particular called DCMS, which is culture, media, sport, and digital.
yeah,
So anything that government does in those areas and all the areas subsidiaries that it funds, that's me. That's my
okay,
team. So Ofcom, Sport England, UK Sport, Tate National History Museum, Tate Gallery,
yeah,
Channel 4, all that sort of stuff, right? So that is me, like day in, day out, what we're doing around this area and how do we bring the best of PwC to it. The beauty of PwC as well, I guess, is that when I joined the firm, whatever it was, 5.5 years ago, I said to them, look, I've got other interests and other things that I'm good at, if you like, and equally that keep me current as well, and
yeah,
keep me at the forefront of why PwC probably hired me in the first place, right? So there's some leeway around that, and things like head coach for the Wales women, that was an example of that, and they're flexible, they're pretty easy as long as you do what you need to do, right? As long as you do your workload
yeah,
and you deliver on your numbers, and that's what I do. So there's a bit of I guess there's a bit of give and take. So as a result, I do the Wales women, although that's not happening at the moment. And then I've also got a company called Optimist Performance, which is sort of where I do my Sky TV work through, and I do lots of stuff around personal development, coaching, leadership, teams, all the rest of it, leveraging my time as England captain or when we went up Mount Everest to set a world record, all those sorts of stuff. All of it was done with teams. So what's the learnings out of that? How do we help people improve and all the rest of it? So I do all that.
Class. So I want to get into that, and I want to get into sort of your mindset and psyche as well. I suppose let's take it back a little bit. How did you get into rugby, and how did you fall into becoming a professional rugby player in the first place?
Well, Matt, I got into rugby because I was basically a bit of a fat kid and boisterous. I think my old dear was like, look, he's got to stop beating up his brother. What do? We can't send him to play football because he's got 2 left feet. So we'll send him to play rugby, and someone else can beat him up for once. So I started that like 4.5, 5. Loved it. My local mini rugby club on the south coast, Hove Rugby Club.
Yeah.
Mate, I just enjoyed it, right? I just loved being active and physical and running around, and so I just did that all the way through. And it was only once I got to like 15, 16, started getting picked for like England under 16s, England under 18 trials, all that sort of stuff, that I started to think, oh, maybe I'm loving this, and maybe this could be a career. But even then, I probably didn't think about it. It was just a dream.
Yeah.
And then when Harlequins offered me a contract when I was 17, 18, that's when it sort of started to dwindle, dawn on me that, oh, actually, there's a real opportunity here for me to go and make this as a career.
Yeah.
And I ballsed my A-levels up, so that didn't help. So I sort of thought, better not go do this now. Otherwise, if it all goes Pete Tong as a rugby player, I won't have anything to fall back on. So I went up to Durham University, and when I was there, Newcastle Falcons came and recruited me, and from then on, it was 12 years as playing professionally.
Obviously, going through uni, and then did you go straight from uni? Did you finish uni and then go into that professional environment, or were you doing both at the same time?
I did both at the same time. I mean, first year, basically, I would have signed for Harlequins in London. I was meant to go to London School of Economics, but I messed up my A-levels, as I said. So I almost basically said, like, tin it, I won't do anything for a year, and just go out to Durham and get a degree and all the rest of it. So I went up there, and when I was there, turned out Durham were pretty good. They were in like Booster League 1 or whatever it was at the time. Yeah. And then I got scouted. Right? I just got scouted by the Falcons, and within my second year, I'd started playing for their under 21s, and then by the end of that, I'd got called up to the first team squad. So my final year at Durham, I was studying and playing first team squad, and the occasional call up or whatever for the first team, and then Rob Andrew gave me my contract after that.
How did you find that as a sort of late teen, early adult, going into that environment on the piss in uni 3 days a week, and then trying to be a professional 3 days a week?
Unreal. As well? Mate, I've got a face that only my mother could love, right? So when you turn up and you sort of say, "Oh, I'm a professional rugby player," blah blah blah, and you're still at uni, you're like, you're like the big fish in a small pond, right? The Billy Big Bollocks. So I was loving it. Like suddenly women would actually talk to me, which was a godsend. So I was like all over this. So I loved it, and I'm a useless boozer at the best of times, right? So I wasn't a massive pisshead at university and all the rest of it. So for me, it was kind of the perfect blend. Like I could just. It gave me even more reason and motivation to train. It was lucky that I got to play really competitive rugby with my best mates playing for Durham. It was a decent standard. We went on and won Booster in my final year, which was like pretty special as an experience. And then I had the opportunity to, if you like, take it another notch up, which was playing for Newcastle and being in that environment. Being surrounded by players as a 20-year-old lad, I just watched him kick the winning drop goal, and there was Wilco, training every week, and Matt Burke, who I'd seen lift the World Cup in '99 for Australia. I was like, Jesus Christ! Like these are all these iconic players that I, grown up worshipping, and now I'm playing with them. So it was great. Yeah.
How do you? Mickey Young's come on here a while back.
Oh God! Could you understand anything he said?
Yeah, just about. I've spent enough time with him, so
a personal interpreter. I love Mickey Young.
I'm alright. Oh, funny boy. So he, you could just see the way he spoke about Newcastle was so infectious. But like you said, like back then, especially that back line, like Flood came through, Noon. You had some fucking quality players. How did you stay grounded, and what was your mindset as like a 21-year-old who's always being given the opportunity to go and express yourself, do what you want, but also
Yeah, well, I mean, that was obviously hard, right? I was going into an environment whereby, at that point in time, our forwards were useless, and our backs were class. I mean, like our
Yeah,
back line was, who do we have? With James Grindle at 9 and Lee Dixon, who went on
yeah,
to special caps. Wilco, Toby Flood, Matt Tate, Jamie Noon. We had a all black called Mark Meyerhoffler.
yeah,
Matt Burke at fullback. Then we had another lad, Tom May, who was literally like,
yeah.
Premiership stalwart of all time. And then a mutant in a bloke called John Rudd, who was like this battering ram, right? So I was trying to, get in the mixer of all of that. So it was competitive, which pushed me a lot, right, to develop my skill set and, if you like, create a point of difference that would get me into the team.
Yeah,
Because as a back three player in that squad, it was competitive. And
yeah.
we also had another, Michael Stevenson, who was a
Oh,
prolific
yeah,
try scorer, right? So that was a really good challenge for me as a 21. So it kept me grounded from that side. And then I was lucky that we had this awesome group of youngsters that were coming through. Some of them I mentioned already: Dixon, Tate, Flood. But then in the forward pack, we had Jeff Parling, who went on to be
yeah,
a British and Irish Lion. Another lad who played in Saxons, Ben Woods, Davey Wilson.
yeah,
All these lads that went on to play international honours. Phil Dowson. So it was great just coming through with all of them and being part of that journey. We're all going through the same thing, if you know what I mean, all playing Monday night football for the second team,
yeah,
absolutely loving it. And then, some of us would get the nod for the first team and we're all sort of pushing each other and geeing each other up. But it was a pretty driven group of lads, which made it, all the better. If now, when we all left, everyone pretty much left in 09. And if you look back after 09, if they'd have kept the whole squad together, as I said, I think it was 10 of them or 12, 11 of them went on to play full international honours.
yeah.
So that was, that was pretty special. And then my final year, we had this monster Kiwi Carl Heyman come in, who was
Oh,
just,
yeah, yeah, of course.
he literally just destroyed teams on his own at scrum time. So finally, we started getting good at forwards, forward packs, so we won some decent ball.
Yeah, he was class as well.
Yeah, he was a
He's
good player.
unbelievable. Where did the sevens come in then? Because obviously you back and forth between club and sevens
Yeah,
before
mate.
you got century contracted.
Well, yeah. So central contracts only came in right at the end of my career, like literally
Okay.
year, 2 years of my career. So all the way through, it was always you just meet as an England squad. You'd all meet at Penny Hill at the beginning, and they would literally go, right, Ollie, you're off to play sevens in Dubai. Ugo Monye, you're going off to play New Zealand on the weekend, and Dave Strettle, you're going to go playing the Saxons or whatever else. So you were all clubbed in together, training with everyone, and then you just get
Yeah.
picked. And for me, it happened in the first 6 months. I just turned up I'd had a pretty blistering sort of end of my under 21s career. I'd got 3 hat tricks in a row, and then off the back of that, Rob Andrews was like, right, come to pre-season for the first team. I went to pre-season. I scored 2 on my debut against Glasgow,
Yeah.
and from then on, I was sort of in the mixer. And so by December, I'd been called up to go, called up to England squad, and B, go away to Dubai, and we won in Dubai. First time England ever won in Dubai as well.
Yeah.
So that, as like my first 6 months, was surreal. I'd gone from like Durham uni lad, pissing around, as you said, like the Swan and 3 Signets, and trying to pretend I could pull a bird or two, and
Yeah.
then to being called up into the England squad within 6 months and playing Stade for Newcastle Falcons in the Premiership and everything else like that, surrounded by these folk history, like legends of the game, like
Yeah.
Wilco,
Yeah.
Berkey. So yeah, it was a pinch myself moment, but that's how it all sort of came about. And then it capped off that first year going to Dubai and getting capped and playing and winning and everything else. That was awesome. So
You
that was
must have thought rugby was easy, mate.
I just loved it, mate. I mean, I always worked my absolute socks off, and I loved that
Yeah.
side of it. I loved all the fitness side of it. It doesn't show in new fit now, obviously, because I'm a bag of rags. But
I'll
I
give you
used to love it.
this. You slammed me the other week on the fucking assault bike. Fucking done me a kipper.
Well, yeah, you put it in actually, good lad. And yes, I mean, I loved all that side of it all, and I sort of reveled in that. Then the biggest downer for me was I had this huge high. I'd got all the way to the being picked for England, and I was starting all week for Newcastle. And I can remember we played Bath at home in the first team, and I played 60 minutes of the game and came off. Steve-O came on for me, and they'd had an injury or something for the sake. That was on the Saturday or Sunday, whatever. And they'd had an injury, someone on the Monday night football against Leicester. And they said, look, Oles, we need you to play, but you won't play long, but we just need you to play. So I was like, oh, I don't know, I've played 60 minutes. But anyway, I played. And then in that game, 78th minute, Darren Garforth broke my leg and ankle. Out for 11 months. So that sort of just stalled everything, if that makes sense. So that was frustrating. But there we go.
How do you stay positive in that aspect then? Like, you've had high, massive lull there. Well, especially at you must be 22 maybe at the time.
Yeah. It's hard, mate. Yeah, of course, because you also get all those thoughts of paranoia in your brain as well around like, 1 second, mate. 1 second, mate. No, I haven't. No, sorry. I just came in, so I didn't shout. Hold on, mate. This room's been booked. I've got to come outside.
Sorry, pal. You carry on.
Just go outside. Sorry, matey. Yeah, so it was more just a case of I'll just go and sit down before they all go crazy again.
Why have you got your own office, mate?
Because it's all hot desk in it. Well, we're not in our offices at the moment. I'm at some Regis office because I can't.
Oh, okay.
Because I can't get can't go into our offices and all that sort of jazz.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it was massively disappointing, mate. It was, I just remember just thinking like, I've been riding sort of crest of a wave, just starting to, get my feet under the table, be a bit of a regular, and then you get the paranoia of like, I'm going to miss out on everything, and this is going to be a disaster, and all the rest of it. And and then I think you then just you take things back. You remember why you were doing it in the first place and what you loved about it, and you just focus on the good thing about rugby, I guess, and being injured in particular is there's like a real normally. This is I think the one I struggled with the most was the injury that finished me, right? But when you get injured, there's a real clear process to like how you get back. It's like you break your leg and ankle. Like if you do this number of times every single day, you'll be back in 9 months, and then you set yourself this like, okay, well I'll be back in 6, kind of thing. You just go through that process, and you take loads of positive notions of the fact of like, okay, I set myself this target, I smashed that target, okay, so the next one, go to the next one, go to the next one. You occasionally get the odd regression where you don't quite make it, but I think I took a lot of motivation out of that, and then you just have to get professional sports like a cutthroat environment, right? So I remember coming back into it, and I was fit, and I had to wait for 4 months, maybe 3 months to get my shot, like just get my shot at playing. And if you don't play well, you miss out on it again for another bloody 4 weeks or whatever else it was. So that was hard because it was almost a year and a half of getting back to the level that I was at originally. But it's a physical sport, right? It's a contact sport, and unfortunately injuries are going to happen. You just hope you don't have as many as others.
Do you reckon that you learned more from that sort of year on the sidelines almost than you had in that previous couple of years actually playing and being involved?
I don't know. I mean, they obviously the old adage, they say you learn more from your losses than your wins, of course. But so maybe, and it obviously gives you the chance to pause and reflect and think about stuff. But I try not to think too much because I think you've got loads of time in your hands. Like now, like COVID, right? People have got loads of time in their hands. The ones that revel in it are the ones that don't think about it too much, but they just focus on a few small little bits and pieces and they just move forward. Whereas the ones that sort of struggle with it are those that can't really focus on any direction. They can't focus on the positives of stuff, and they end up trying to just scattergun and do tons of things and don't achieve any of them. And then you get the disappointment of that too. So I think in general, I'd probably say yes, because it gave me the opportunity to work on things that I hadn't worked on before. But equally, if I'd have been playing for a year and a half, would I have been a better player and would I have been in a better position at the end of it? Maybe, but I always try not to reflect too much on it and be like, oh,
Yeah.
if only, because if my auntie had balls, she'd be my uncle. So
Yeah, of course.
you can't think about those sorts of things.
You've still had some career. Talk to me about the sevens in general, then, and that journey, getting into that environment, like you said, winning Dubai early doors, but then your journey through that. Because again, that was a team that, your Ben Gollings and was it Damu and people like that. Like I remember the England sevens players when I first started watching it.
Yeah.
What was that journey like?
Well, I was just special, right? I mean, I was lucky to be, as you say, like, I was lucky to be around at a time where like England sevens was, well, we were, the best, if not, one of the best teams in the
Yeah,
world. So I don't, life's just always better. Rugby's always better when you're winning, right? So whenever we went to tournaments, it was brilliant that we were winning, or at least in with a shot of winning. So you turn up, you're like, okay, we're expecting to be in semi-finals and finals here to win stuff. So that was pretty special. And then to be surrounded by the group of players that I was, and also see the others coming through. So you had like this established group of internationals like Amor, Gollings, Damu, and then at the same time Chris Cracknell, and then you're looking at Ben Youngs, Tom Croft, James Haskell, Matt Banahan, Ben Foden, Ugo
class.
Monye, Tom Varndale, just all these unreal players coming through, that just this talent, right?
Yeah.
And then, the icing on the cake for me was I got to be captain of them for a good few years, and lead this amazing group of talented players that we were winning stuff as well. So it's almost even better. And you're the captain, you're lifting the trophy, and you're not even doing that much at the end of it all. So even better.
Were you a leader, or was it a case of you were one of the more senior players, so it was kind of given to you? Like, how did that come about, the captaincy?
Yeah, you'll have to ask probably Benny Ryan for that one. But I mean, I would like to say a bit of both, right? But what I would say to you is what I thought was leadership when I was playing for England.
Yeah,
definitely wasn't when I moved away from it all. Right?
yeah.
So what I thought I needed to do as a leader, as being for England, was ultimately sort of like work the hardest, be the fittest, shout the loudest.
Yeah.
And I realised then when I'd retired and when I did a few other bits like sail around the world, go up Everest, I was like, leadership is not what I thought it is, right? It's not shouting the loudest or being the fittest. It's about understanding the people, empathising with their positions, investing time into them and their own development, talking to them, sharing stories. Like that was probably the more effective and more enjoyable side of leadership than basically sort of just screaming and shouting.
But I suppose in that professional environment, you've got a team manager, you've got a coach. I suppose that they would be seen to be kind of almost doing that a bit more than you would have to.
Maybe. I think also you can get lost in it, right? You can get lost in thinking that your leadership style and your methodology or whatever is the right way because you're winning.
Yeah.
So and what you don't realise is actually you probably could have won more.
Of course.
You're winning maybe in spite of your leadership. I'm not trying to say I was a bad one at all. I think if you ask people, I hope they'd say I was a decent one. But equally, there were so many other things. If I could do it again, I'd do it very differently. But again, that's the benefit of hindsight, right? And experience. You learn from stuff. You're like, oh, I could have applied that in that scenario better.
Yeah.
So in the future, you do it better. But if you knew it all at the beginning, it'd be pretty boring, right? You would learn it.
Yeah, of course.
So it's a catch-22. Like, would I have loved to have done some of the things later on in life? Definitely. Do I regret it? Not really.
Yeah.
Probably because we won loads of stuff, so that helped.
What was the training like? Is it a death zone or something like that? Yeah. What's training like for sevens? Because again,
we've been there a few times in UFIT, mate.
Mate, I'm there walking in, pal. I'm sweating. I'm on the red zone already as I walk in on the heart monitor.
Yeah. Mate, it was a bit theatrical, a bit dramatic, right? But the premise was that you had to get your heart rate to a certain level.
Yeah.
For a certain amount of time. So it was like, I can't remember, it's like 170 or 180 beats a minute for sustained for 2 minutes. Then when you were there at that level from the fitness test and whatever else, only then they would say, right, now we play a game. So the premise was that if you could execute all of your
Yeah.
like core skills and decision making under that sort of duress and stress
Yeah.
and pressure, when it came to like a match, you'd be sweet as a nut. So,
Yeah.
and it was true. I just wish we didn't have to go through that pain just
Yeah.
to prove it.
As that mindset and that I want to say resilience has played a big part in your career up to that point as well. You know, coming back from that injury and going through those physically tough times. Has that helped you then in your later career? You know, in boardrooms at PwC and on your other quests as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a thing I talk around about getting comfortable, about being uncomfortable, which I've found loads and loads of people talking around lately. But it resonated a little bit with the experience. But you got to remember, like, so when we did the death zone piece, that was all centered around like your physical. I mean, there was a mental and emotional application, but it was more about getting yourself into a physical state of duress and then executing.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was at PwC, I mean, it didn't matter how many times I ran up and down the stairs, and my heart rate was pumping. It didn't. So it was more the sort of psychological piece of like, actually, like, I'm in an uncomfortable situation. I don't understand the content. I feel way out of my depth and my comfort
Yeah.
zone here, but I've just got to embrace this and if you like, and enjoy the experience
Yeah.
of learning under that process. But it just was a different experience, if that makes sense. And I think because of the physical side, I was, I don't know, amenable to it. I knew how to handle it. I was like, right, okay, I know what it feels like to be absolutely screwed. I know, I think I know my heart's not going to explode.
Yeah.
So I can just keep pushing myself here.
Yeah.
And so it was almost easier to manage that one than it is around the, God, I just feel anxious and insecure and like got so many doubts around what I'm saying and doing, right? Which is
Yeah.
not a emotional, psychological, comfortable state to be in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, what do you do though if you're in that environment and you do feel like that, so that anxious or you're not quite sure about yourself in that particular moment? What do you do to help yourself get through that barrier? Because that is definitely something I see more and more people talking about nowadays, whether it's on Facebook or when you chat with people. Anxiety and the unknown and what's going to happen next. People really
Yeah,
struggle with.
I think it's probably a multitude of things, right? But it's one, having trust and confidence in the people around you, not only to do their job, but also that they're not going to judge you, kind of thing. Like, there's an appreciation and a recognition of everybody's got their own strengths and their own weaknesses, and actually the benefit and beauty of like the partnership or the team is the fact that you can all be honest and transparent, but like, I don't understand what's going on in this
Yeah,
sort of situation, because I don't know, maybe next week or next month or whatever, there's going to be a situation where you're totally comfortable and they're not comfortable, and they'll feel fine telling you that, right? So that's probably the first one. And then I also think there's this misconception that as a leader or just in society in general, you're seeing it all the time in COVID right now, that just because you're in a position of authority or leadership, right, you need to have all the answers. You need
yeah,
to know
yeah,
everything. And it's actually that trips people up the most, right? Because they try and wing it, or they
yeah,
try and say things that they don't know much about, or don't have any credibility around, that ultimately comes and trips them up, or blows up in their face afterwards. So I've tried to, I've actually found it easier sort of saying, look, I don't really know, I don't really understand, and at least then I'm honest and I'm transparent, and
yeah,
people are not sitting there going, well, hold on, you told me that we would, I know, you told me that if we all voted for Brexit, 400 million would go back into the NHS every week. Well, no, it
yeah,
doesn't. You know what I mean? So it's those sorts of things that I just find it's better to be upfront, honest, transparent, build trust within your teams and whatever else, and
yeah.
then and they know you're authentic then. Whereas if you try and pretend that you know all the answers, and then when you don't deliver it, that's when you come a cropper.
Have you been in teams on the pitch or off the pitch where not everyone has bought into that ethos? Where you have been,
Oh
especially
yeah.
when you were captain, like how do you try and bring everyone on board if they, if they don't quite believe in it, but everyone else does, but there might be one that
um,
is a bad apple.
Playing rugby was easier because I was, if you like, I knew my game inside and out, right?
Yeah,
I knew what a good scrum or a bad line out, or if somebody was shirking their training or whatever else, I could ultimately call bullshit on people, right? I'm not saying I could do their job, but I could,
Yeah.
you knew the landscape of what good and bad looked like.
Yeah.
Whereas in my existing job, particularly the beginning, right, I had no clue what good or bad looked like. So that became pretty hard around, I don't know if you're taking the piss here. I don't know if this is like genuine. Like, I've got no way of calling bullshit. So that was real. And like, that was a real problem for me at the beginning, because I had to put so much trust and faith in the people around me and what they were telling me. But in general, I found, to be honest with you, that people like to be trusted. People like to feel empowered. People like to sort of play to their own strengths, their own skill set. So that was relatively easy for me to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's interesting because it only takes one person to sort of rock the boat, and all of a
of
sudden it's
course.
sapped everyone then, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to make sure you get rid of the poison, if you like, in your group. That's pretty critical. If you don't get rid of them, then if you don't root them out quickly, that can become problematical. But sometimes, I don't think people in general, there's obviously an exception to the rule, but I don't think people in general like being malicious or nasty or anything like that. I just think sometimes they just either been in the wrong environment, or they've been mistreated, or they're just disappointed with something that's going on in their life, right? And as a result of that, that's made them lean and tend towards the sort of more negative sides of everything. But given the right support and time and attention, they can come around again.
Something like somewhere, sorry, I see that a lot at the moment is, I don't know how prevalent you are in terms of scrolling through Twitter and stuff, but on social media, like, especially Wales, but I follow a few different teams. I know people at various teams, so you follow them and you see like a result doesn't go their way, for example, and people will just fire into them on social media. And what you just said there about they don't want to be malicious, but they must have had something that's made them feel in that negative way. Why people feel that it's okay to go onto social media and just fucking hammer someone or something over and over and over, tens of thousands of comments at times to one particular incident where, they just maybe had a bad day at the office. And like, I don't understand why that's okay still.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's not, is it, fundamentally, right? But I mean, two things. One, bad news sells better than good news, right? So people love like hearing about everyone's cock-ups and failures rather than celebrating everyone's success, because ultimately maybe people get are jealous of like people's success stories and where else, because they all want it. It's the envy of them. So, and that's unfortunately the sort of sorry state that we've created as a community, as a society, right? That everybody is sort of trying to get more money or more wealth, more cars, more whatever else. It's all this sort of superior lifestyle, but it actually means absolutely F all. And then the other part is the likes of social media in general, right? The whole premise of it was to applaud and champion freedom of speech. And unfortunately, what it's given rise to now is just a load of hate speech, right?
Of course.
Whereby it's given, unfortunately, a public voice to a load of people that should just never have one, because if you haven't got anything good to say, don't say it, kind of thing. But I think I just think certainly as sports people, it comes with the territory, right? You just got to get accustomed to that. But that doesn't mean it's acceptable. It just means
of course.
you're just used to it. I think what you're seeing out of COVID and what's all springing now is people, keyboard warriors that can just hide behind the screens and everything else like that, and just basically spurt whatever they want, even if it's not even truth, right? This all
of course.
fake news stuff is now giving rise to societies, communities where actually nobody knows what the truth is. Like, nobody's got a bloody clue anymore. Everyone's like, I don't know if this is true, this is fake. Like, technology becomes so sophisticated, they can literally say what they want, and I've got no way of validating and vindicating it. And that's where I think the pressure's now coming on the likes of like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, of like, right, if you're going to be a platform for good and in society, you're going to be accountable for what goes up on there. Just like if, I don't know, the Daily Telegraph prints an article that's a complete lie, you know, they get hauled over the coals, they get fined, and
Yeah.
you know, unfortunately they'll put some like apology note at page 27 or something.
Right at the
but
bottom.
yeah, right. But either way, you know, there are repercussions for their actions. Whereas right now,
Yeah.
there's nothing on those sorts of platforms. But thankfully, that's coming.
Did you ever take much heat? I mean, social media probably wasn't quite as prevalent when you started out playing, but definitely towards the end. Did you ever take much heat? And if so, like, how did you deal with that? Did you laugh it off? Would you bite back?
Yeah, I took a bit of heat on like personal life stuff more than anything else. Like I remember
Okay.
there's a big article that the Telegraph and the Mail printed about apparently I was being thrown out of Mike and Zara's house because I outstayed my welcome, and they printed a load of lies about that. I was some like binge eating, McDonald's loving pisshead or something like that. I just, and was also a serial womanizer that was just bringing back loads of women to shag or whatever in that house, and Zara had finally had enough and
Yeah.
thrown me out. You know, and I didn't
So
really care.
for the record, that's not true.
So I can't believe they found out so many true stories about me. It's unbelievable.
I'm waiting to see that in The Crown season 5 now.
Yeah, but but I think the disappointing thing was just more it didn't have any repercussions, but it just could have, right? You know,
Yeah, yeah,
my contract was up at Gloucester. I was with a girl for the best part of a year at that point in time. So they kind of all, and the clubs, thankfully, a lot of the coaches knew me as a personality, knew it was all bullshit. But
yeah,
equally, if you were a coach just about to maybe think about signing me, and you didn't know
yeah,
where I was from, didn't know anything about me, and you read an article saying this bloke's a serial womanizing, binge eating pisshead, it's like, why do we want that in our club? And
yeah,
equally, if I hadn't been with my girlfriend for a year and she knew who I was and knew that was all Fanny, she could have been like, if imagine I just met her on like date one or whatever, and she was potentially my future wife, but she read this article. She went, "Why do I want to go out with this bloke who's just out shagging
yeah,
left, right, and centre? He's just been turfed out of his house, you know." So it just, and it was a outright lie.
yeah, yeah,
But I didn't have deep enough pockets to sue them. There was nothing that I
yeah,
could do. Right, it was defamation of character, but there was nothing that I could physically do to write it. So yes, I mean they were, but it didn't have any other than my own sort of like frustration and annoyance. It didn't actually
yeah.
have any lasting repercussions or effects.
Thankfully.
Yeah, mate.
What did you ever get? Obviously, to having so much success with England sevens and then being with Newcastle at the time, were you in and around the 15 squad as well?
Yeah, mate, I did. So actually, when I was at my time with the 15s came when I was at Stade, when I was in
Yeah.
Paris.
Okay.
Martin Johnson to come over to see. We had Haskell and Palmer with us playing at the time.
Yeah.
So, but I was having a bumper run at that point. That in the season, I was like top try scorer in the league.
You player of the year, weren't you? Or
Yeah,
overseas player?
that year I was. Yeah, I was player of
Yeah.
the year, and I was just getting a lot of attention, if you like, in France. I was scoring a lot, and that was why I moved back to Gloucester, because Martin Johnson sort of said, "Look, the politics here between club and country it's too much, right? It's already hard
Yeah.
enough. It's already hard enough for us to get Wilco back from Toulon, Hask and Tom back from Stade. We're just not going to, despite you're playing really well and we'd love to have a look at you, we're just not going to take the risk. We just can't take
Yeah.
the add extra heat."
It's
And
a
so
shame
he
that,
said,
isn't it?
yeah. So he said, "Look, get yourself back to an English club, get yourself playing, produce the same form, and you'll be in the mixer for definite." So I was like, all right. So I came back to, I needed a big op when I finished at Stade. So I had like 6 months where I was recovering from that. And then I signed for Gloucester in the January time
Yeah.
because Ollie Morgan blew his knee out. That's why I got the shout at Gloucester.
Yeah.
And I turned out I was super excited. I was living with Tins and Zara because they've kindly sort of said, "Look, come live with us while you sort of, get your feet under the table
Try
and everything else
feet.
like that."
Yeah.
And first 3-4 weeks were awesome, just meeting the boys. I knew a lot of them anyway because my ex-missus was from Cheltenham originally, so I'd been down there loads and met a load of
Yeah.
Gloucester boys. Whenever I played against Gloucester, I played well, and then I used to go out and the piss them afterwards. And I knew
Yeah.
Tins from like 2006, so he was a mate of mine. So we were, I was super pumped, and I just got my call up for the start on the weekend, and then the team run on the Friday, I pulled my hamstring, and then it just literally it was like a 4 month. I'd come back after like 3 weeks, again, I got picked. To wait like 2 weeks. Again, got picked to start.
Yeah.
Then it went again on me, and so this is why I only ended up playing like 3 games, because I was just so frustrated. Like every time I was about to start, my hammy went on me, and it was all to do with basically I'd got a fracture in my back playing for England that I didn't know about.
Yeah.
It compromised my nerve pathways, and that was it, mate. So, there we go.
That's tough to take in it, because you're obviously aspiring to reach the biggest heights you can, and then get dealt that sort of card as well. Like,
Yeah. It's hard.
it is tough. And like, people who can't put that into perspective. You get to the last. Fuck, this is going to be absolute dog shit. But you get to that last stage of that final interview, and you're there, you're ready to take the job, and then someone just fucking pulls it from under your feet. Like, what do you do next?
Yeah.
Again, how do you get over that and make the decision to actually just try and walk away, rather than try and get back again and again and again?
Well, the decision was made for me in the end, right? I didn't have a choice. Like, I kept trying to come back with England. I got this calf issue that I just couldn't shake. It was like 13 months or something, constantly going back and forth. Like, I'd train and I could do everything, but I just couldn't sprint. I mean, eventually we were at World Cup training camp in Teen, and it was like 2 weeks before the World Cup or something like that. And I can't remember what happened, but basically I was sort of just jogging, and I just dropped to the floor like a sack of spuds, and that was it, mate. Game over. And they just said, look, basically I think they gave up a little bit, if I'm honest. Like, the England physios just sort of ran out of steam, ran out of options. They just like, look, we don't know what the hell's the matter with this, but we just think you're going to have to retire, because it's just, whatever we do is not working.
Yeah.
And that was obviously pretty gutting to hear, but I tried to fight it. I tried to sort of see if I could do something else, but you also, I was 29 at the time, so I still felt like I had legs left in me. But at the same time, I had the opportunity presented to me, sort of go and do all these adventures. So a guy rang me up and said, "Look, do you want to go sail around the world?" I was like, "Okay, well, hold on. Go sail around the world, do this awesome race, be part of this new adventure, or do I sit here where nobody's going to back me, nobody thinks I can do it?" If anything, I probably just lost a bit of self-confidence and motivation, whatever, and was like, right, well, if you guys are not going to throw your weight behind me, then how the hell this pointless me hanging around.
No, I completely get that. It's easy to lose that motivation normally, let alone after sort of, would you say, 12 or 13 months. Just on adventure there, before we get into your charity stuff, what was Stade like? They were always my team because of the kit when I was growing up. Absolutely
awesome,
fucking
man.
loved it. Unbelievable. Always had a Stade shirt every year. What was
unreal,
that? What was that French adventure like?
Well, man, so I got signed by Dominici, bless his soul. So he was the one that brought me in.
Yeah.
So he was my coach at the time when I first joined. But yeah, mate, just you got to remember, I'm coming from Newcastle, like 3 men and his dog sitting there watching us on the weekend, to 80,000 people in a capital city like Paris, playing in pink, gregarious, flamboyant, gay owner, just poles apart, mate. Just so different, but wicked. I mean, one of the biggest clubs in Europe at that point in time.
Yeah.
Just everything about it was epic. So I loved it, mate. I loved every minute of it, to be honest. And it was just, this perfect storm. Like, I'd just come off the back of getting voted as the best player in the world. And in 2009, straight into Stade.
Yeah.
Playing every week, learning French, living in Paris, and then culminating in getting voted as the best overseas player after being there for 2 years. So that was also another awesome experience, awesome time, etc.
Yeah, it looks. It's easy for me to say. I don't play pro rugby, never have, never will. But I think more players would benefit professionally, but also as a person, to actually get abroad and play in different leagues, test yourself in different leagues, but also just go and experience different cultures.
Yeah, it was epic, mate. Honestly, I can't recommend it enough. And probably the greatest thing that came out of it, aside from the memories, obviously, was the fact that I can speak fluent French now, which I couldn't when I left. I couldn't speak at all. So, that stands me in good stead for the rest of my life. Let alone, all rugby's given me is amazing memories, and I've totally fuck joints. Whereas like now, at least I've got this French that I can now go and speak for the rest of my life and converse with people over in France and all the rest of it. Great times.
Brilliant, mate. No, I love it. Talk to me about your adventures there, Mr. Charity. So you've got your 4 world records.
Yeah, I know. Well, Mikey, look, I didn't really, because I want to talk about this for ages. I've got 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
So do you want me to do my 4 o'clock and then come back on to you?
Yeah, so a little bit of, basically yesterday we had to put a halt to it, obviously diary schedules and stuff. So,
well, we had a cheeky diversion, didn't we? Just an accidental interlude. We needed to give everyone a break.
Yeah,
keep them wanting more.
I'll put like a little song in between or whatever, so people can go and make a cup of tea, mate. But yeah, back again, Ollie Phillips. We'll get this finished off. We were just coming on to your charity work and world records and all the stuff you've done post rugby around the world. So the Clipper around the world race that you mentioned previously, and then you had the Arctic Trek, the cycle race, Mount Killy. Talk us through that, and I suppose I'm more interested in 1, what you did, but 2, what did rugby give you to be able to go and complete these challenges, and why those challenges, and I suppose some of the mindset around that as well.
So what did it give me? I guess rugby gave me like a brand and a platform, if you like, of like ex-professional rugby player at Stade, captain for England, World Player of the Year, all that sort of stuff, which gave me a bit of credibility, so that some people were like wanting me to be part of this, and actively pursuing me to be a part of it, if you know what I mean. So it wasn't me just sort of chasing after them, sort of saying, "Oh, please let me sail around the world." It was a bit of a quid pro quo, and that we would both be benefiting out of this whole process. Them getting some extra profile, but maybe some extra sponsors as a result of that. Bit more PR and media coverage, and at the same time I would be benefiting because I'm getting a life experience that is just totally incredible, right? Totally out there. And it was the Clipper race in particular was undoubtedly one of the greatest experiences of my life, and my existing career in PwC came off the back of that. Nothing to do with rugby, came off the back of the Clipper race. So I'm incredibly thankful to the race, and also to the 2 blokes, Sir Robert Knox-Johnson and William Ward, who both sort of backed it, if you know what I mean. Like they liked me, they got on well with me. I still have a very good relationship with both of them. So yeah, I'm immensely grateful for that, and it's such a cool project and product. Like there's not many things now where risk and compliance just shuts you down.
Yeah.
And this is the thing where, like, Mikey, you could do it. You do 4 weeks of training and then you hop on a boat and you sail around the world. Like that is unreal, right? There's not many companies that would, or events or whatever, that just allow you to have that kind of experience anymore.
Yeah.
So I was massively grateful for that. And then,
what did you actually have to do then when you were traveling around? Like, what's the whole, for people who haven't heard of it? What's the whole concept of it?
You do 4 weeks training, and then it's a matched fleet, 12 boats, and you go and sail around the world as part of a race. If you win, it's done over legs.
Okay.
So if you go, it's 46,000 miles at sea, 11 months going around the world, and you go, I went London to Rio de Janeiro. That was the first race. Yeah. And if you come in first, you get 12 points. Come in last, you get 1 point. Okay. And depending on how quick you are, you'll have a certain amount of days in port. So if you're like there first, you'll get more time. You get like a week. If you're there last, some of them, they got like a day. And then you race from Rio to Cape Town to Australia. You end up having Christmas in Sydney. Then you do a massive flagship race called the Sydney to Hobart race, which is unreal. And then you head all the way up from there to Singapore. You go to Brisbane, Singapore, China, a place called Qingdao. Then you cross over the Pacific to the US and to San Francisco. The finish line was the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco for that race. And you go down through the Panama Canal up to New York, and then back across to Europe. And then you finish up in London.
That's berserk.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, and I'd never sailed before in my life, so it was amazing.
Is that a charity as well, or is it a case of you get sponsored to do it, and then it's a case of, are you raising money, or like what's the?
Yeah, all these things I always do. So basically, that particular event was driven by the fact that my career had come to an end. I mean, that was obviously the main driver of like oh my God, I thought I was a rugby player. I had this whole plan of like, go to the World Cup, go to the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, finish my career in Rio at the Olympics. That was the plan. And it all fell flat on its arse after the World Cup in 2013. So I was like, oh shit, what do I do now? And then coupled with that was my grandma, who was kind of like my best mate, and alongside my mum, but my kind of linchpin that I always sort of go to, help me all the way through my sort of adolescence or whatever. She died pretty suddenly of dementia, and then she got breast cancer. So that I'd had the op. I never forget. I had the op on my leg, of which was hopefully was going to allow me to play again.
Yeah.
I went into her care home, and she was basically on her last legs at this point. I leant into her ear and I said, "Look, Nan, it's okay. I've had the operation. I'm fine, and life will all be okay." And then I left the care home. 5 minutes later, they called me and said, "Look, she's just died. Can you come back?" So it was one of those like, oh fuck, like. So that as a driver, for me to then go and say, I then teamed up with the Alzheimer's Society, and I'd arranged to do a bike ride for them from London to Brussels to get a load of people. So we got about 180 people to join this bike ride to celebrate Alzheimer's. And then the Clipper race came on board. And I was like, I'll do that for Alzheimer's and I'll do it for cancer research as well. So actually what happened was I actually waved goodbye to my boat in St. Catherine's Dock on the 1st of September. They then sailed to this place called Brest, which is this little town in northwest France. It's a bit of a trial run for people. And I cycled from London to Brussels during that time period. So I cycled all the way London to Brussels, took this group of people because I promised that I'd do it. And when we got to Brussels, I'll never forget, it was my 30th birthday.
Yeah.
The 8th of September, that I woke up in Brussels, having done it all, finished the race, got there on the 7th. The morning of this 8th, all my family were there. We sort of had a happy birthday, celebrated the cycle ride. And then I flew to Brest that evening and got on board the boat on the eve of at 10:30 at night, on the eve of my 30th birthday, met all my crewmates for sort of like the first time. And the next day we set sail to Rio de Janeiro.
What's that like, spending 11 months with a couple of people you've never really met before and don't really know, and there's not a lot of space to go and...
Well, I mean, the way you portray it, I mean, you already just let the sigh of like, oh, God, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not what I would choose to do on a day-to-day basis. Like, Ollie, what do you want to do in life? I'd love to stay in a 70-foot space with 20 people that I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's fine. Like, it was actually great. Like, so, for example, one of the lads who was there, and I met on the race, he's now my best mate, one of my business partners that we do a few bits and pieces together.
Yeah.
And it was best man at my wedding.
Class.
Right? So, so I met, like, if you like, one of my most trusted mates of all time. And if you like, there's nothing more compelling than that as a year-long interview of like, mate, how good a friend are you? Because so that was awesome. And like the bloke who just redecorated our house, he was a mate of mine that did part of the race that I met during the Clipper race. So I still got lots of friends, if you like, from the whole thing that I've got a lot of time for. As always, you move away, everyone gets on with life. You don't see it. You don't see as much of everyone.
Yeah.
Except for like the small few, and in my case, in particular this one lad. But that's part of life, right? I mean, that's just. But it's a shared experience, an amazing memory, and what I love about it is that I can look back. I can see these people when I'm in my sort of Zimmer frame in, 5 years' time, probably.
Yeah,
my body's going.
Yeah.
But I can see them and sort of say, look, you just got that moment, right? That shared experience of like, do you remember when we did this? And that can be as big and as huge and as ridiculous as sailing around the world, and it can be as trivial as you and me on a airdyne. An airdyne bike, and you're like, mate, do you remember that time where I was totally bollocksed and you gave me shit and whatever else for doing
Almost
it? Like,
sick.
But it's still a shared experience, right? And although it wasn't at the exact point in time that enjoyable, afterwards we still remember it, we still have a laugh about it, and now we're doing a podcast together, and so that's what was special about it.
I heard a
And I
good.
do it all for charity. That was sort of the icing on the cake to raise all that money.
Yeah, I heard one of my mates said a good quote yesterday. I'd not heard it before, but memories are better than dreams. Just go and do it. And it resonated with me because I was having an hour about a couple of different things, and I was like, "Fuck, I love that. That's class."
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's a good quote. I haven't heard that before, but that's cool.
No, I'd never thought of it like that. And he commented on one of my pictures or something like that, and I was like, "That's a new mantra I'm going to try and live by a bit."
Memories are that you've been there and you've done it. The dreams are that you're hoping and inspiring, right? So both are credible, but I'd much rather be talking about things that I've done than things that I'd like to do, right? So,
yeah, of course.
So yeah, I don't know. My philosophy is, particularly as I look like a bag of rags. I'm not here for a long time. I'm here for a good time. So
yeah,
I want to make sure I maximised every moment of it, really.
And then from there, then how did was it the Arctic one next? Where you got your 2 world records up there?
Yeah. So we did. So we got 1 world record. So we basically, when I was going around the world, I did it for the Wooden Spoon. There were two charities that I did it for: the Alzheimer's Society and the Wooden Spoon.
Yeah.
And I'd raised a decent amount. I hadn't shaved for 11 months, so I had this like ridiculous beard.
Yeah.
And I died at the Union Jack because I was on board the Great Britain boat. So when I got back, it was like a sponsored shave off, and it raised something like 30 grand or something ridiculous.
Mad.
And I think the Wooden Spoon I've done a lot with them anyway through my rugby career because they're sort of the children's charity of rugby.
Yeah.
And I love the work that they do. And they contacted me and said, look, we're trying to do something a bit out of the ordinary. The World Cup's coming to England in 2015. Want to try and put the charity on the map and want to take us to the next level in terms of how people perceive us as a charity.
Yeah.
So we want to go and set a Guinness World Record at the North Pole for the most northerly game of rugby played in history. So I was like, Jesus Christ, like that's not my typical holiday destination, but why not? I kind of came off the back of the sailing race. I still was hoping and / probably a bit delusional that my leg will have recovered from being away for a year. I could come back and play. I was only 30, so I could still have a crack at it. And so I trained for 6 months. And I went to Dubai actually with England A, and I just knew that it wasn't happening. And so that was the day I knew I'm done. And luckily, I'd kept the conversation going with the Wooden Spoon all the way through around like, well, we're going to go to the North Pole, we're going to do this sort of stuff. So I guess I didn't dwell on that maybe as much as I should have done, or at least process it. But I was just focused on that. Like, if you like, I shifted onto that.
It filled the void.
And then, I was just buried it under the carpet and didn't have to deal with it until about a year and a half later. But so that then came about, and there was this massive adventure to go to the North Pole, set a Guinness World Record, and raise a boatload of cash, which we did. And I guess that and the Clipper then just lit this litmus paper in me of like, I want to just go do all of these amazing things, massive challenges, and raise as much cash as I possibly can.
Yeah.
So that's what I've done. I mean, all these adventures now, I've raised about 2.7 million now across them.
Fuck.
Yeah.
That's a tremendous amount of money.
Yeah. So it's been hard work, but it's been brilliant as well.
Do you feel as proud about that or more proud than your rugby career? Like, where does it compare?
Yeah, but I think you're probably right. I think my rugby career is more sort of a personal sort of pride, if that makes sense, around, I had a dream as a kid. Don't get me wrong, I didn't do probably everything that I dreamt of as a kid, but I think there's always stuff you want to do, right? I would love to have been capped at 15s and won a World Cup and been Jonny Wilkinson, right? But that would have been amazing. I'd love to have got a British Lions cap. So there are things that I didn't do, but I think there's always going to be that. I look back at it now with just immense amount of like joy and gratitude for what it afforded me, the people that I met, the experiences that I had, and also the opportunity to play rugby with the best players in the world on the biggest stage, and be capable, if that makes sense, like be competent and to be at that level, which probably at 15, 16, I wasn't sure if I could be. So I take a lot of personal pride in that. The charity stuff is different. The charity stuff is, I'm less bothered about the world records and stuff like that. That's just sort of the bit of paper that says we did it.
The byproduct.
And that's great, and it's a nice thing to look at and be,
Yeah.
reflect on. And as you just said, memories are better than dreams. So it if you like, brings me back to that moment every time I see the world record or I see a photo or whatever else.
Yeah.
But the thing I love the most about it, all of them, and none of my challenges have been any different, have been that they've always been with people. So I've always done them in teams. I'm not one of those like idiots that wants to. Well, not idiots. I'm not one of those people that wants to go and sit on their own in a igloo for 50 days.
Yeah.
And so it's always been with people. So it's always been about the shared experience. So the thing I'm proud the most of is like bringing all these people together, having this amazing shared experience, and raising a phenomenal amount of money that's helped change and shape the lives of other people that were less fortunate to be in that position through no fault of their own. And and that makes me happy, right? That makes me really, really proud. And I've got 2 young kids now, so I hope that they look at both. They look at both when they're older and be like, I'm super proud that my dad, managed to play for England or whatever, but probably more stoic and more proud of the fact that, wow, he's raised I'm not stopping now either, but he's raised a boatload of money and helped so many people and changed their lives.
And each of the challenges have been quite different as well. You've obviously got the clip around the world race on the boat, the Arctic trek, which, I mean, what was that experience like? You're in the middle of nowhere in the wilderness. Like, I can't even begin to fathom what that might be like.
I've never been to the moon, but I'd love to be on that one of those jets that go up there. But it's the closest I can imagine, or that I've read, to like a lunar landscape, just nothing for miles.
Yeah.
But really, equally a bloody precarious place to be. Like, you're walking on frozen water. You don't know how thick it is. Every step you take can be different. There's proper risk. There's polar bears kicking around that are on the hunt for anything they can eat.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's surreal. But again, if I hadn't been asked to do this, if I wasn't afforded the opportunity to go, I just would never go. I spend my life talking about North Pole every Christmas because I know that Santa Claus is up there. But I've been there. Like, I've been there. Santa Claus isn't there, unfortunately. He wasn't there when I went there, but I went in May, so he was probably busy with the elves at that point. But I just think, I just like the fact that we've been there, we've done it. It's I can have a conversation with Mikey Rowe for hours on end around like, this is what happened, this is what it was like. And don't get me wrong, there were some awful times there, and there was one in particular, like, not part of our group, but you all meet in this holding camp before you set off, and you all meet each other and you're doing all different things and what have you. And there were 2 lads there, Norwegian boys, that were sort of doing an expedition for National Geographic. And cut a long story short, unfortunately, they fell through the ice and died 3 miles east from where we'd set up camp. Day 5 of a 13-day trek. That hits you like a ton of bricks of like, oh my God, like, there's a proper risk. So you get like those harrowing moments where you're like, oh fuck, and then you get these amazing, like, awe-inspiring moments where you're like, we've done this, like, we've set a world record. Like, the reason it's called a world record is because it's never been done before. It's the first time ever anyone has done this. So that's brilliant, right? And maybe someone will, well, they can't break it really. You can't go any further north, but
it's berserk. Like the I suppose the resilience and mental toughness to hear about that and then keep going, knowing that it could easily happen in your group as well. Like this.
Yeah. Well, that's what. I mean, we're all sort of
comprehend.
We're all sort of prattling around for the first 5 days.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone just wandering around. You scream like bear, because if you scream bear, you all take cover, get your guns out, and get your rubber pellets loaded, and see what happens, right? And then one bloke at the back just sit there pissing himself because everyone's diving all over the place. But when that happened on day 5, we were like, this is not pissing around this place. This is, we need to show it some respect and be. We'd slackened a bit, and we weren't all sort of chained up, and people were bolting off and doing their own thing. And not ridiculous, but when you walk, you're all meant to walk within 5 meters of each other.
Yeah.
So if someone goes to the ice, you can get them out.
Yeah.
And then you have some people that were like, nah, I'm just going off here. I think this is quicker. So they bolt like 100 meters away. And yeah, I think that day brought it home to everybody of like, no, we need to wind our necks in here.
Yeah, Mother Nature's unforgiving.
Yeah, exactly.
You did obviously that cycle race around America. Something I think I'd love to do. That sounded class. And then Mount Kilimanjaro as well. What was your favourite one out of those four?
But my favourite one was the cycle across America, just because I did it with my wife.
Yeah.
So I did it with that other lunatic that comes in the gym with me every morning.
She a machine, mate.
She is a machine. Yeah. I mean, it's the only reason why I keep going to the gym, because I got to try and stay ahead of her.
Yeah.
But no, so we did that together, and I just thought that was and it was an amazing experience. Like cycling across America, I just didn't realize how diverse it is, and brutal it is as well, to be honest. But and because we did that together, it was just the whole experience from start to finish was just magical. Yeah. Honestly, again, with an amazing group of people, a team of people that we all went, you had navigators driving, chefs following, strategists managing our route, and et cetera, people sorting water. It's just a wicked team effort, like amazing, lovely people, brilliant experience. So that was number one. And I would probably almost put that out there above most of my challenges I've done, even though we cycled across the whole of America, 3,200 miles in 8.5 days, but it was wicked, honestly amazing. So that would be number one. And then Kili was awesome. That's a tough mountain, because you sort of do 1,200 meters in the final day, and that's a big shock to your system. So we had a couple of people that properly bonked, and we had to, they just lost it mentally, so we had to get them off the mountain. So that was just a cool mountain, and again made you feel that sort of sense of humility and whatever else.
I can relate to that. We did with work a couple of years ago. We did 5 mountains around Mont Blanc in 5 days in 5 different countries. So Liechtenstein, Switzerland, Italy, France, and Austria, I think it was.
What, tackling Mont Blanc every time from those different countries?
No, so Mont Blanc was almost in the middle, and each day we'd drive to a different country and go up the biggest mountain next to Mont Blanc. Because Mont Blanc was just a different level, and you needed a bit more training for it. So we did 1 mountain in each of those countries every day. So it was a full day up and down trek. But the one day, I think we were in, I don't know if it was Austria. I can't remember if it was Austria or not, but we had a whiteout, literally about 50 meters, because they've got the cross on the top of each of the mountains. So we had a whiteout, and the guy who took us was ex-SAS, and he was our course leader essentially. And he was like, for 50 meters, we're not going to touch that. But if you don't want to go, then this course leader will take you back now. So everyone came and we touched it, but that's the only time I can ever say that I genuinely, at the time I had like my wet jacket on, but didn't have my down jacket on because it was belting sunshine.
Yeah.
But it was drizzling a little bit. So I can say it's the only time that I was properly scared that I wasn't in control, if that makes sense.
That's what happens. That's why I love the mountains in particular, right? Because Mother Nature shows no mercy, and it's unforgiving, and it can literally flick in a second, right? So you can be on your way up, and in those situations, well, you should be, you have to be. What I love is the humility to be able to say, you know what, even though, I mean, you guys didn't do this, but I know some people that were, for example, 100 feet from the top of Everest, and a whiteout hit, and they had to turn around and say, we're going back, right? And it's that happened to Josh Lucy. He got 100 feet or 200 feet from the top of Everest, and his oxygen mask froze on him, and he had to go back down, right? And most situations like rugby of like, oh my God, I got one more set, I just fucking bash it out, I get through it. Mountains and these adventures, you don't get through it. If you try and punch through it, you die. And that's what I find is like, I love that balance. Like, I love that sort of moment of like, well, this is actually proper decision making.
Yeah.
Like, this is, and having the ability of self-control. Like, because before I would just blitz myself. I'd just destroy myself, bury myself into the ground in the hope that more is better.
Yeah.
Whereas actually having the self-control and the discipline to understand when it's not your time is special, right? It's hard, but it's special.
I think that comes back to that thing you said earlier on in the pod, where you said you thought you knew leadership until actually you'd kind of finished playing rugby and got into that more professional environment from a business sense.
Yeah, I think, well, it's also obviously the exposure of stuff that I've given myself to the varied stuff, and also just the it's the appreciation of like different people, right? When I was playing rugby, it was a very, very niche demographic, male, between 20 and 30, majority, well, single or whatever, no real dependence, all the rest of it, with the sole focus of just doing this thing, like chasing an egg around a field. When I got out to the big bad world, nobody really gives a toss about half that stuff.
Yeah.
And no one cares about like what your bleep test score is or whatever else of that, So it's, it just brought home actually that the real value, the real importance is the human interaction, the amount of time you invest into understanding people, understanding why they move, what gets them up in every morning, and how you can then help them achieve their goals. And if you can focus on that, if you can be an active listener and a brilliant giver, if you like, to support other people, you go miles in life. I didn't learn that for ages. I thought it was all about me, my own development, my own continuation, and that's what all I focused on, was a very selfish existence for probably my 20s to 30s, those 10 years. But now I see life in a very different light.
I completely agree with that. I think for me, maybe last year or the year before, I heard a podcast with Gary Vaynerchuk, who owns a huge media company out in America. And he said, always give 51%. You can happily then take 49 if you want to, but always give 51, always give more than you ever take. And again, it's something that sort of resonated with me, always try and give more value than I ask for back.
And I think if your rationale for doing things is that you want something back, you're always going to be disappointed, right?
Yeah.
Because even if you get what you wanted at the beginning, you would always wonder if you could have had more.
Yeah, of course.
Did I go in too cheap or whatever else?
Yeah.
Whereas if your whole focus and your whole remit is centered around how can I give as much to you as physically possible, what you get back in spades is this huge amount of gratitude, trust from other people, and that's what's special, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's something that I see in business all the time that more people could do with and do better, I think.
Yeah.
Is that where you obviously got Optimist as well then? So is that where this has come from, almost trying to give back to people and help them grow as well, businesses and individuals?
Yeah. It was the Optimist performance was centered around, I've had loads of experiences. People quite wanted to hear these stories.
Yeah.
So how can I sort of transfer some of the learning and experience that I had around leadership, teams, goal setting, managing change, building a performance culture. And what I realized, even like with my time in the WRU as well, like it's this thing that I coined as the success psyche, which is, I'm a firm believer in our feelings drive our emotions drive our behaviors, and then our behaviors will ultimately determine the decisions that we make. So how Mikey is feeling every single morning is ultimately going to determine emotionally the sort of state that he's in. Like, if he's feeling great about life, if he's feeling positive, if he's feeling supported, if he's feeling nurtured, if he's feeling encouraged, if he's feeling like he's grateful for the world, the emotions that he's going to be experiencing are going to be one of satisfaction, hope, excitement, and as a result of that, his behaviours are going to be positive and encouraging and everything towards both himself and other people.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, all the decisions he makes are going to be geared and structured towards that. Now, equally, conversely, it can be the same on the opposite side.
Yeah.
And it's about self-awareness, really, of how cognizant are you of how you feel, and then how self-aware are you as how that impacts you on your day-to-day, and then how do you build a framework and a support network around you to help manage and mitigate against some of that or leverage some of that.
Yeah.
And then how good are you at communicating to others what these things mean so that they can understand, they can listen to the tales, they can see what's happening, and then they understand how to react.
I love that.
So that's sort of, that's in a broad sense, that's what I sort of try and focus on. And that's either in one-on-one coaching with people, a motivational session where I sort of stand up and, and do a talk or whatever else, or teams, organizations where they want to get in a bit more depth and do some proper sort of development, if that makes sense. So how do we move us? Like, we're here, we want to get here. We think these are the things that are getting in our way, but sometimes you don't know what you don't know. We can't understand why we're not getting here.
Yeah.
How do we help move our people that way? And then it's all around, teams, leadership, culture, behaviors, performance. So yeah, that's what Optimist does. And I just love talking about it. I just love how, to your point originally, I love coaching people. I love, I guess if you like, the gratitude that I get and the satisfaction that I get from helping other people is much more than the satisfaction that I get from getting paid.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. But
no, definitely. I love that. I think it's something, again, more and more people are looking at, especially if they had more time at home, and how can they self-develop and build resilience and change their attitude, change their mindsets, and those little things that help people grow that little 1% and take the next step each day to become a better person. It's definitely something that I've seen both in work, from a work capacity, but also just, amongst my friends and on social media and stuff. So absolutely love that. And I'll put this on LinkedIn as well and tag you guys in so that
mate, please, do
business people can hear that, because I think you can be beneficial to a lot of businesses.
Well, hopefully, that's we've done some great work with some cool businesses and some inspiring people that know much more than me anyway, in terms of the, if you like, the theoretical side of it all, and they're doing some amazing work. If you like, it's just me trying to input wherever I can and add as much value as I can to that conversation.
Good, mate. What's the future then, pal? What you got anything coming up challenge-wise, or what are you looking to do?
Yeah. Well, it's obviously at the moment a bit COVID dependent, COVID restricted, isn't it? But the aim was this year, 2020, that is, to cycle around Ireland for a good pal of mine, Doddy Weir, who's unfortunately got motor neuron disease. That was delayed or cancelled because of COVID, so we've deferred that to next April. So that's happening in April next year for Easter. So we're going 1st of April to the 11th. So if people want to get on that and do a leg or all of it or whatever they want to do, they can. So that's happening in April. I was meant to swim the Channel in sort of September, October, but again, that got tinned. So I'm hoping that I can do that next year, because we've deferred our boat to next year. And I got asked, actually, bizarrely, about 2 weeks ago, if I would go up Mount Kenya in March. So as a bit of a prelude to the Lions. As a bit of an outreach program, an education program across Africa. So Simon Shaw and a few other lads have built an education bus that's traveling around Africa and teaching kids around sort of digital coding and technology and whatever else like that.
Class.
So hopefully that one comes off. So it's still in the throes at the moment, but definitely at the moment, definitely the cycle ride. That's the one thing that's definitely happening.
I'll have a chat to you about that, pal. That sounds good. I like it.
Yeah, mate, yeah. Get involved if you fancy.
It's inspiring, to hear some of the things that you've done, knowing that I've never done. That the 5 countries, 5 mountains things was cool for me. Like you said, to be able. But I see certain people now and again in different radio stations. You just have that look and go, "Oh yeah, do you remember that time in Austria?"
And often the problem with these things are people talk themselves out of it before they even started. They're like, I won't be able to raise the money. I can't find the time. I could never do that. I'm not fit enough. I don't know, whatever the excuses are, right? These things, of course, you need to make some effort, right? I'm not going to say you can just rock up and do it, right? You need to sort of invest the time, the effort, but half of the fun of it is doing that, right? It's overcoming that hurdle of, I don't think I can do this. Oh shit, I've just done it. Like, whether that be raise 100 quid, raise 1,000 quid, get fitter. I don't know, whatever the goal is. But people have got this sort of delusions of, this just misconception of that you need to be like Lance Armstrong to go and do this, cycle around Ireland. Like, it's not a race. Like if you do it there will be some people that will do each leg in like 4 hours because all they do is spend their life in Lycra and they are like Lance Armstrong. And there are other people that take 12 hours.
Yeah.
And if anything, theirs is probably more arduous experience because they've got to be on the bike for 12 hours. They've got to battle against it. So the actual sense of achievement is even more substantial for them. So the one thing I always say to people is just, if you believe you can't, you won't, right?
Yeah.
Because you are the only person that will literally prevent you from doing it. There'll be loads of people along the way who go like, "Oh, you sure you're going to do that? Oh, that's going to be hard," or whatever else. But just ignore that, right? Because they're the people that are, if you like, living in their own comfort zone, because it's easier for them to sort of be negative, and then you can be in their camp and you can all sort of live a life of doing nothing. Or you can be that person that says, no, I want to try. And even if you don't do it, delight in the failure and delight in the fact that you've had a go.
Yeah.
That is the beauty of it. It's the fact that you rolled the dice and you had a go. And if you do it, you've changed your whole paradigm, your whole life forever. And if it doesn't work, you've learned so much more about how you do it better the next time. Whereas if you just sit still and you don't ever do it, you will never know.
Class. I love it, mate. Where can people find information on that cycle?
Mate, just drop me a note. Drop me a note on LinkedIn, Ollie Phillips, or Twitter at Ollie Phillips 11.
Yeah.
So all of that, just get involved, and I'll send all the information over to them and whatever else.
And where can they find your information on the Optimist as well?
On the website, mate. So optimistperformance.com. So just go on there. It's all on there. They can get in touch through their, the newsletter piece as well. They can reach out as a contact us kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I want as much contact as I possibly can. This isn't an adventure, but the other thing we're going to do as a load of fun is we're going to take a load of people over for the Lions test.
Yeah.
Go there for the first and second test, go on safari, do all that sort of stuff. I'm playing in like a Legends game, even though I'm not, basically old fogies game on the Friday night before each test match.
Yeah.
Springbok Legends against Lions Legends. And, just be there, be part of that family and community and whatever else. And, if we can find tickets and buy some and whatever, brilliant. If we can't, then we'll just have a wicked time over there.
Yeah, no, I love that. I might be keen for that as well, pal. Put it through.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, well, let me know. I'll put you all in. I've got all the info on that one as well.
Look, I really appreciate your time. Big thanks to Tiny Rebel Brewery for giving us the beers every week. Big thanks to everyone who downloads, subscribes, rates, and reviews. Catch us on Twitter, Facebook at Catflap Chats, and on Instagram as well. Big thanks to Ollie Phillips. Been an absolute pleasure, pal, and quite inspiring, especially that second half of the pod about where people can actually take their minds and bodies to in order to grow and do something for other people as well.
Yeah.
So
it's all about mindset. In fact, probably the biggest person that ever told me that was Jonny Wilkinson. I've never seen anyone achieve things that he achieved.
I listened to him.
Human being.
I listened to him on the High Performance podcast he did recently.
He went deep.
That was very deep. I'm not sure if I could handle that every day, but
as
one of my heroes.
To close on this one, I remember he and I used to vie for sort of being the fittest in the. I can't remember if I told you the story or not, but
no.
He and I used to vie for sort of 1 and 2 in the fitness tests within England.
Yeah.
And I remember we did a session with a bloke called Steve Black once, who was he was with Wales actually for a little while as well, but he was like our fitness guru, but he was more than that. He was like a life coach.
Is he the big guy?
Yeah, big fat Geordie bloke.
Yeah, I know who you mean.
Legend, absolute hero of a man. Anyway, he did a session with me and Wilco on our own. And at the time, I'd just beaten Wilco's fitness test in the 2 weeks before or something. In fitness testing, I'd come 1, he'd come 2. And we did our sort of training session, and both of us were, I've never been that fatigued in my life. Like, I couldn't lift my legs, I couldn't feel my lungs, I had like that horrible sick in my mouth, the works. All I wanted to do was just lay there for an hour. And Wilco was the same. We're both just there, sprawled on the floor. And I never forget, Blackie came over to me and he went, "Ollie, mate, you just chill. sit there, you're done for the day. Wilco, get up. And he gave Wilco a football, and he put him in front of the wall, and he said, right, off you go. And he had to volley it with his feet, but he had to alternate, so he could go left, right, he had to alternate each one. And Blackie said, right, off you go, alternate volleys. And his legs would have been like, there was 2 massive pieces of lead hanging off them, right? He would have been absolutely banjaxed. And Blackie stopped him on 673. And I've never seen anything in my life. I know it sounds ridiculous. It was the most awe-inspiring thing I've ever seen in my life. I mean, I don't think I could do 673 fresh, right? But
no, I definitely couldn't. Without touching the floor.
Without touching the floor. Without the ball hitting the floor and alternating as well. So without using the same foot twice.
Yeah.
And I just remember looking at it and going, that, like, physically, I know you're fucked. Like, physically, I know you're gone.
Yeah.
But your ability to control your mindset and control what your brain is telling you is incredible. Like, I've never seen that. Like, so many people with that self-talk would talk themselves out of it, or be like, I'm so screwed, or they might even get to 40 and be like, oh, that's really well done, bloody hell, but my legs are knackered or whatever. Like,
yeah. He
just could take his I don't know, his psyche or thought process to just a different stratosphere. He can go somewhere when I've never met anyone that can go there, right? But psychologically, and physically or whatever, don't get me wrong, he was amazing. He's a physically fit bloke, but he wasn't the strongest bloke or the one who could lift the most weights. He wasn't. It wasn't anything like that. But he would take himself to a place mentally that nobody else could go to. So you both might get to, I don't know, 10 reps on a bench press, and then you'd be like, oh, I'm really knackered here, and you just squeeze the last one out and get out. He'd do the exact same thing, but then he could convince his brain to go again. It was unbelievable. I just saw it over and over again, but that was the biggest one I'd ever seen, where I was like, I don't know how you've done that.
That's class.
I don't know how you got there. And that's mindset.
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to try it in my garage tonight. See how far I go fresh. That's unbelievable. Hey, thank you so much, mate. I really appreciate it. We'll have a catch up about a few things, and I've enjoyed that, mate. I've enjoyed that.
Good lad. Let everyone get in touch whenever they want.
Yeah, no worries. So like I said, big thanks to Tiny Rebel. Big thanks to everyone else, and we'll catch you next week.